I really truly not only have loved his information that he shared, his videos, the way that he can bring so many different topics into such a simplified, beautiful way. He also has been so authentic during the journey. And like what I talked about earlier, is for a lot of people, when they get attention and followers and viral videos and all of that, it can go right to their head. And one thing that I've really enjoyed is watching Marco become more humble, more, and it was like, that's why I believe that this is the next generation of thought leaders, because it really is like watching people become successful more and more and step into their purpose and going deeper, healing more, becoming more humble, becoming of deeper service. And that is just, something that in my journey of meeting so many people in this space, I think that that is a very rare gift. And that's the thing that I admire most about him. And guys, check out his book, How to Listen to the Universe. He just sent me a copy and it had the sweetest message. And I'm beyond excited for this lecture because Marco not only has an amazing way of presenting information, he has a electric, contagious energy that, oh, cool, you have the book too, yes. And he just has an amazing electric energy that really makes it contagious. The information that he shares, and it really resonates, and he knows how to deliver it in a way that sticks with you. So, without any further ado, Marco J. Williams, and oh, perfect, and we have the link to his book in the chat. So, hello, Marco. Let me hop off here.
Greetings, Jen, and everyone else on board. First of all, I want to say I am truly grateful for this opportunity to come here and talk. And you gave an amazing intro because, like Ian, my content was geared towards conspiracy based stuff and thinking outside the box. And I noticed that type of content was what allowed me to find my tribe and connect to a lot of like minded individuals like yourself, along with everybody who's on here tonight or today, this afternoon, whatever part of the world you're on. But like I said, I am grateful because community is the new income. I believe that we're connecting nothing but like minded individuals. But today's lecture was geared towards just this because, like you said, a lot of it went to my head, the quick fame and being recognized out and about. I felt like a little celebrity. But I had my hero's journey that humbled me down, and I kind of want to share that with this shadow work masterclass where we're going to get deep into a lot of trauma, and it's going to be active participation. So I guess we can go ahead and begin. Let me share my screen. Hopefully, you're all doing good today. All right. All right, so I just want to make sure everybody's able to see my screen because I remember the last time I did this, we kind of had issues where people weren't seeing the full thing. So this is just a test. Is everybody seeing it? Let me see in the chat. We're good? All right. Okay. Let me see. All right. So this is, let me try to get this out of the way so everybody can see the full slides. All right. Welcome to Innerstanding Your Inner Demons Shadow Work Masterclass. Of course, I am your host, Marco J. Williams. And as I was trying to say earlier, this isn't going to be a death by PowerPoint. This is going to require a lot of built in exercises that is going to require your participation. And right off the jump, we're starting with an exercise that any of you all can participate in to start this off. And it's going to be 10 things I hate about you. I want you to list 10 things you dislike about yourself, right? And if you can't come up with 10 things, that's okay. But I want you to come up with something, and I'm going to go around and share because this is how we get into our shadow. We got to ask the questions, the tough questions, and be real with ourselves with what don't we like about ourselves. So I will give you all at least 2 minutes to reflect on something. And if you feel inclined to share right away, you can go ahead and do that. But I'll start off with myself as you guys get the juices flowing and tell you what don't I like about myself. And when it comes to shadow work, you don't need a fancy journal, people. You can, I mean, there are a lot of journals that have a lot of questions that can really dig into yourself. But I have this typical red notebook, and if there is something I want to ask myself and do therapy with, I write it down in here. And that is all that's required. So, with 10 things I dislike about myself, I listed a few things where I noticed I lack a nurturing side to me. With my own kids, I didn't nurture them in a way that a father should truly nurture their children. I was more of a provider. I wanted to level up in my career and provide for them because that's how my parents showed me attention, where they were providers and they did and provided anything that I asked for, they gave it to me. So I feel like that kind of transpired into my own shadow, and I projected it into my own. So once I recognized that, that's when I started to change. And I also feel like I over focus on task. And when I over focus on task, it's a gift and a curse. Because yes, I can get the task done, but I neglect the people who are around me. I don't give them the undivided attention, and I have this tunnel vision where I'm just locked into the particular task. And sometimes I don't even eat because I'm that locked in. And that caused me to lose a lot of weight. So I'm not happy. I wasn't happy with my weight because of how I was neglecting my own health. So that is a few things about me. Now, I want to know a few things about you all. Who would like to go first and share right after me? The floor is yours, Miss Diaz. All right, got two participants. So, Ms. Diaz, you can go first.
Hi, my name is Astrid, and so for me, I would say how I yell at my kids sometimes. I try my best not to do it, and I try my best to be patient. I realize like I'm more nicer to like strangers, and I should have more of that same patience with my own kids. And I feel like I'm repeating my parents' habits. So just that one is something that just popped up number one in my head.
I'm grateful for you sharing that. And that's what I actually want you all to share is what comes first to mind? What is it that you feel you're being drawn to talk about? So thank you for sharing that. I'm going to go ahead and move on to Lamar. I believe you're the next one who raised your hand.
All right, cool. Hello, everybody. Yeah, my name's Lamar. I definitely have noticed in my own kind of spiritual journey, similar to I think what Jen mentioned in the introduction, kind of around the 2021, 2022, like that time frame really kick-started a big spiritual kind of journey for myself. I actually ended up following Marco. I followed Bruno as well, and have been able to kind of build a friendship with Bruno over the last couple months, which is kind of why I'm here today, which is awesome. But I noticed during my earlier phases of learning that I was very isolated, and so kind of pulled away from community, did not really nurture my connections with friends, and really fell into, just kind of a big pattern of isolation. And so kind of opposite of Marco, I ended up eating a lot, gained a lot of weight, and was kind of overindulging in other things to kind of fill that hole of lack of connection. And so now, kind of coming out of that, trying to engage in the community again and kind of be involved in more conversations and build more connections, hence being here and kind of trying to actually actively put some of that spiritual and consciousness knowledge into use. So thanks for kind of organizing and bringing all these folks together, because it does really feel like a good synchronicity to start having these conversations.
Thank you for sharing, Lamar. I appreciate you. Oh, you have the book.
Oh yeah, we got the book.
That's amazing. That was the start. That showcased a little bit of my shadow work journey in there at the end. But I'm grateful for you to be here, and thank you for sharing that vulnerability. Who is, I believe Elizabeth was next.
Hi everyone.
Hi.
You can call me Beth if you want, but Elizabeth is fine too. Hi, I'm from Scottsdale, and I'm so happy to be here. It's great to see you, Marco. Okay, so something that I do if I'm trying to either figure something out or I have a pain in my body, I have a tendency to overanalyze everything. Like, I'm into astrology and I have a lot of Virgo placements. Virgos have a tendency to overthink. And so I overanalyze like pains in my body or something I go through, and I'm analyzing it just from every angle. And sometimes I wish I could just surrender more and have a little bit more patience and trust. So I guess it's my overanalyzing that I don't love.
Okay. I'm for that. I feel that as a Virgo myself. I completely get that.
Virgo.
We are ruled by our gut. So we tend to be too analytical at times.
Yes.
So
Exactly.
thank you for sharing that. Miss Maria, would you like to go next?
Thank you. Yeah, hi, my name's Maria, and echoing all the gratitude. So, for me, the first thing that came up that encompasses kind of all the areas of life in a sense, of just not always like performing or doing the things that are in alignment with what I want or need. And there are all sorts that I do, and I know there's all sorts of great reframes that I've developed skills in through that experience. But sometimes those sort of things that we've developed a habit of seeing as failures, your consciousness of that conversation with yourself kind of unpacks a lot of new layers, and it does come with accepting some like disappointments still in the present. So I think something about that, still having difficulty acting it, like really just acting in alignment in a way that is also like of service and of in the spirit of sharing and love and stuff like that. So looking forward to meeting a little bit more of that on a deeper sense today.
All right. Thank you for sharing that, Maria. There's gonna be a lot of inner work that we'll be doing within this next hour. So those of you who don't have anything that comes to mind right now, that's okay. But later on, there are other exercises which I hope you all participate in. I'm going to go ahead and move on to John.
Hey, that's me. Can you see me?
I can see you.
I don't know which way I'm supposed to be looking. Probably over here. Thank you. Yeah, nice to be with you. I'd say one thing that I struggle with is like setting unrealistic expectations for myself, like thinking that my life should be in a different place than it currently is, that I should be, more leveled up than I currently am. Maybe it's like a little bit of perfectionism that, I'm just not in alignment with what my destiny is. And then just instead, I wish that I would surrender more to kind of the present and just understand that everything is unfolding in divine timing, and just like accept myself kind of for where I'm at in life. So yeah, a little bit of just unrealistic expectations, and not being as president, having anxiety about the future.
John, the past has already happened, and the future is something that's imaginary. It's we don't know what's to come in it, but we have the one infinite now, and that is what is existing, just being.
Yeah.
And you look, just the fact that you're on here right now, you got air in your lungs, that right there tells me you're already doing amazing. And that's a little perspective, like let me ask you, where is it that you think you want to be?
Well, I guess sometimes like comparing myself, external validation. Just watching all my friends like getting married, having kids, buying houses, like settling. My life took me on a completely different path, and like I am I find so much joy in my personal journey. But then obviously with all of that mainstream like societal norms, sometimes it feels like, oh well, is that something that I should be like thinking of, or is that something that I should be having, or it's kind of those things.
Wow, thank you for sharing that, John. And we have a slide that's going to come back to this exact same train of thought. So you hold that thought. But thank you for sharing.
Thank you, sir.
Is there anyone else who would like to go before we move on? All right. I don't think I've seen any more hands raised. I think we had some issues of somebody who doesn't know how to raise their hand. But okay, so since there are no more hands that are raised, we're going to move on. Thank you all for sharing. All right. So, it is May the 4th. May the 4th be with you all. I am a huge Star Wars fan. And I don't think I do this lecture. This is my second time doing this, and it's very funny how it aligned to May the 4th. But those of you who are familiar with Star Wars, you know that Anakin Skywalker's transition into Darth Vader is the hero's journey of what happens when the shadow is left unchecked. If you don't work on what's in the shadow, it's going to keep you in a lower vibration. This attracts the negative energy and experiences throughout your life. So, when it comes to a spiritual journey, a lot of us forget this crucial step of shadow work. And when you go within the shadows, you come out 10 times better because you're shining light on the stuff that you are suppressing about yourself. Now, you see right here on the right hand side, you see a shadow of Darth Vader in young Anakin Skywalker. And you see that my favorite quote from Yoda is, fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. That right there, if you're familiar with the movie Star Wars, then you know Anakin's journey. He has this fear of losing his mother, which then transformed to the fear of losing his wife Padme. And then because of this fear, he goes on this quest to gain ultimate power and becomes a Sith Lord because he's manipulated because of this fear into eventually killing his own wife with this new learned power. And that leads to suffering. But within him, there's still light. And Luke Skywalker is who exposes this light on Anakin Skywalker to bring him back from the dark side. Because a little bit of light can outshine the darkness. So, another movie, and I promise you all this is not going to be just film-based lectures, but two movies that also incorporate shadow work is Fight Club and Black Swan. I'm going to talk a little bit more about Fight Club later on, and that'll be the last time I give a movie reference, but I want to talk right quick about Black Swan because this is a perfect example of how our parents kind of influence us when it comes to our shadow. If those who've seen the movie, you're familiar with how she kind of was trying to live up to her mother's failed expectation of being a ballerina, and she didn't have a life of her own. And this black swan kind of took over and wrecked haywire in her life, but it was her shadow self. So our shadows play a different role. They want us to grow. They, believe it or not, they're very destructive. In Flight Club, you see that too with Edward Norton's character. He's in the corporate America and he wants to break free. And Brad Pitt's character is his shadow self that's screaming to break loose. Both of these films do an amazing job of depicting shadow work. Highly suggest we all check them out on our downtime or just rewatch them when you have a chance. Now, Carl Jung's concept of the shadow refers to the unconscious aspects of the personality that the conscious ego does not identify as part of itself. This includes those repressed feelings, the desires, the fears, and the undesirable traits. The stuff that we project onto others. That's your shadow. Now, there are four major archetypes. You have the self, the persona, the anima and animus, and the shadow. You can't understand the shadow without knowing the other archetypes, and we're going to briefly discuss the other ones because they all play a role in this journey. You have the self. This strives for unity, balance, and completeness within the individual. The conscious and unconscious aspect of the psyche and it seeks to harmonize them. And achieving a connection with the self leads to a sense of fulfillment and authenticity. That's why when it comes to social media, I always preach to be your best authentic self. Because when you are yourself, that is when your tribe will find you. You notice how a lot of your strangers are your biggest supporters as opposed to your own family members, the one that you put on this persona, the ones who kind of shaped your own shadow. But I notice a lot of your own friends and family members won't give you the ultimate support, but strangers will. And they do this when you're not afraid to be yourself. And that's the frequency of authenticity. You have the persona. This is the elaborate facade that an individual presents to the world. It helps us navigate the social interactions and fulfill societal expectations. It can also obscure the true nature and lead to a sense of alienation from ourselves. Yes, we put on this front to the world, but we're not being true to our core, and that is detrimental. Then you have the anima and animus. The anima is the Latin for soul. It represents the feminine aspects of a man's unconscious. The animus is the Latin for mind or spirit. It represents the masculine components of a woman's unconscious, and they influence how we relate to the opposite gender. So you see, a man's mother can kind of shape his anima. So if how he views her can impact how he views women. You notice these man-childs are these men who are very destructive with the relationships of women, and they see them as objects or sexual beings. This is damaged anima, and the same goes for the woman, where her father can play a key factor in shaping that. If he's absent, whether he's just not in the picture at all, or he is in the picture, like myself, I noticed this with my own. I was in the picture for my kids, but I wasn't mentally nurturing there, where I was always trying to pursue and level up with my career as opposed to giving them the true nurture nature that they needed. So it's a good thing that I recognize this, but this can play an impact in your child's life, or it played an impact into your life if you let this go unchecked. I consider it the yin and yang of our psyche. Its function is to connect the depths of our psyche, and integrating these aspects is crucial for achieving psychological balance and personal growth. So for men, integrating the anima means embracing their emotional, intuitive, and nurturing qualities, which may have been suppressed or undervalued in traditional masculine roles. A lot of us are told as a man that we can't cry it it's a feminine trait, but we're holding in all this negative energy. That's not being true to ourselves. And a lot of us tend to, like my girlfriend the other day said, she loves to see a man that is nurturing to his children. To have that love for someone else, it's a good feeling to see. So men who have this nurturing side, it was something that I honestly envied because I didn't have that. Like I was not it, and we'll get more into that later. But that was something that I was envious of different men who just had this natural nurturing side. They had this balance completed. So integration of the anima allows men for a deeper connection with others, and it allows them to live more authentically. Now, for women, integrating involves acknowledging their assertive, rational, and independent qualities. It means embracing their intellectual capabilities, ambition, and inner strength without denying their femininity. So yes, it's okay to be a boss woman. It's okay to still have that dominant side to you and also be a woman. This is the whole divine masculine and divine feminine balance, the yin and yang. And the next archetype you have is the shadow. The shadow is perhaps the most complex and disruptive archetype. It often manifests in projection, where we attribute our own disowned quality onto others. So, how can it manifest? This is through unconscious thoughts, fantasies that we find disturbing or unacceptable, emotions such as anger, envy, shame, behaviors out of the ordinary, impulsively acting in self-destructive behaviors, or projecting our own undesirable traits onto others. And I personally see the last one a lot in the work environment, where you see leaders who project a good leader will project their own qualities that they're not strong in, and they can't teach a certain, like me being a firefighter, I've seen a lot of officers who they don't train you properly because they're not confident with their own capabilities. So instead it comes out as them yelling at you for not knowing, when they're the ones who are supposed to be training you. That is a form of projection. So what is shadow work? Well, shadow work is why we're here. It's the process of exploring and integrating the hidden or suppressed aspects of ourselves, which comes from our unconscious mind. Your unconscious, you ever pay attention to the random conversation someone will have with you where they'll just say a outlandish thought and you're like, wow, where's that coming from? Like, for example, someone can say, oh, I don't go to strip clubs. I don't respect them, the strippers. But next thing you know, you're like, what's that got to do with anything? They're in a strip club throwing money, and this is just something that they hide. Like this is your unconscious talking through your actions. You know, like some people tend to go through this with themselves. Just pay attention to random conversations, and you'll see this play out. Now, the shadow is driven by various mechanisms. This is repression, projection, denial, compensation, and integration. I'm gonna touch more on this denial and compensation part in the integrating the shadow in the work environment slide, but we got a little deep dive with that. So, how do you recognize your shadow? It's a few ways. This is going to be another group reflection where we're going to think about a reoccurring trait or behavior in others that triggers a strong emotional reaction within you. Now, I would like to see more participation in this one because I know that we all have something that triggers a strong emotional reaction within us that others do. So I will give you 2 minutes to think about this. And when you think about this, like really be honest with yourself. What triggers that emotion within you? Let's see. So I will go first if no one hasn't had the thought come to their mind yet. But
Marco, would you like them to put their answers in the chat or come on?
they can come on. They can raise their hand or let me see.
Okay, so if you raise your hand, folks, we'll go ahead and get you up with Marco.
Okay. So
Okay, looks like Elkie was first.
all right, Elkie, you can go first.
Sorry. Can you hear me?
We hear you.
Okay, hi, thanks. This is great. Something that triggers me, I guess, is like an unwillingness to consider another perspective. If I encounter that, I have a strong reaction toward that.
Elkie, thank you for sharing that. That I feel that. I resonate with that. I I believe Maria's next.
Yes, hi. Being told no. It's like I feel like I rarely ask for stuff. Yeah.
So when
someone says no, and then just thinking about it is making me teary-eyed now.
well, let's explore that. Why does someone telling you no trigger this emotion?
Because I feel like I rarely ask for something, and then why can't I be given it? And I feel like when people ask me for stuff or anything, I usually say yes. Like, I don't know how to say no. Well, no, that's wrong. I could say no. I rarely say no to others. And then, yeah,
I was going to
it's
ask.
hard to hear it.
I was going to ask you, has there ever been a time you have told someone no and you regretted it?
No.
No? Okay.
No, I can't think of anything.
All right. Well, I appreciate you for sharing that. John.
Hey, I'm back. This is one that I've noticed actually recently. And I feel like one thing that triggers me is like talking to someone when it feels like it's like a one-way conversation. It feels like that person isn't open to listening. It's just about kind of like speaking at you, and it's not really a conversation. And yeah, since it's so recent, I haven't really digested why I am so emotionally. I could have a strong emotional reaction to that, but it's definitely a trigger.
Yeah. No. Thank you for sharing that. I believe Elizabeth, you had your hand raised next.
Yep. Hi again. To piggyback with John, yeah, like he was saying too, one-way conversations where there's not an equal energy exchange, like John was saying, where somebody is just talking, and I'm just receiving and listening, but then I feel depleted because there wasn't an equal energy exchange. It was just them venting. That's very frustrating. And another one, when people choose not to do shadow work, yet project, it's hard for me to be around people like that. Like, I have to be around people who are like-minded, who are willing to be expansive and willing to go within the darkness and like work through your freaking shadows, work through, like, heal yourself. It's hard for me to be around people who don't do that.
Now, Maria, I'm in Elizabeth. I saw Maria raise her hand. Elizabeth, I'm gonna be quite honest. Like, I think a lot of people don't know where to start when it comes to shadow work, and a lot of people are in denial when it comes to going within themselves. They don't want to. Shadow work is ugly. They don't want to hear the things about themselves that make them uncomfortable, so they choose to keep it in the dark. And you see it all the time with either in a work environment or people around you, where people just project and project. And I honestly believe that now, understanding shadow work, it makes you not react to certain people in a way, because you know that it is a projection of their inner self that they have not healed. So,
And I'm getting better at not taking it so personal, because I used to take it personal and get really angry, but I'm getting better at just saying, okay, maybe they don't know as much as I do. They don't know what shadow work is, like you're saying. So give them some grace, Beth. Like, you don't have to be so angry about it. But yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying. Most people don't even know what it is.
right, if you don't know better, you can't do better.
You're right.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
sharing. Katrina.
Hi everyone, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. So I'm currently in a period where a lot of stuff is coming up for me. So it's literally just like one after the other, and I'm like, okay, rejection, abandonment, this and that. Right now, for example, it's just like speaking up. I'm kind of shaking, so I have still this like fear of just being seen, I think, or I don't know, is it persecution from somewhere back and so on. But a major one for me is also I kind of just started to set up boundaries, especially with my mom. And then it's like I realized that I've been in this relationship with her where she was dominant all the time. And whenever I tried to kind of speak up for myself or say what I want to do or how I want to do it or just no, I would get this like guilt and a lot of guilt. And then, so currently I'm just like, okay, no is the full sentence and I don't have to pick up the phone and I don't have to reply. And I'm struggling with this kind of anger, which I then just feel on my energy field from her. But it's like, okay, this is not my energy, this is hers. Me, I'm sovereign, I'm in my power and so on. So that's a major one for me.
Wow. I'm grateful that you shared this with us. This vulnerability, it really means a lot, us being vulnerable and sharing our inner truth. So I just want to say, those of you who participated so far, I'm really happy. And those of you who have not participated, I'm tempted to randomly calling on people. I'm just gonna throw that out there. So just feel inclined to share. Thank you, Katrina. All right. Mirror? Oh, 4 other participants. All right. All right.
Hi, I think it said that I'm next. I can't turn on the video though. It says it was disabled, so I'll just voice. Thank you everyone. So when Marie said that thing about being told no, sort of, and I don't ask for much, it like opened up my belly, like started feeling all these feelings, and it linked to something I'd already written down around just being allowed that my feelings and how I'm feeling or reacting to something is valid, and then having people sometimes just go, oh, you're being sensitive, you're being dramatic. And I just also want to echo that relation to sometimes the mother stuff. Some of it, a lot comes from that place, and just my reaction to that, or how that creates then this hypervigilance of how you're perceived. Yeah, and that definitely like triggers a lot of behaviors in me, and just being like, oh, that sensitivity is often a gift, but definitely you're like, I don't think I'm being dramatic, but I must be wrong. If anyone can relate to that, but that one woke something up. So
Well, Maria, thank you for sharing that. I believe Carmina's next.
Hi everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I'm not sure if the camera's on though. I can't see myself. But anyways, so for me, it is when people perceive that my opinions or like what I'm saying is a mistake or wrong, that literally brings up a lot of I don't know, anger in me for some reason. Even if sometimes my opinions are actually wrong, and you know, it has been proven that it was wrong. I still feel that anger that I made a mistake or that I was wrong in terms of things. It's like it's hard for me to accept right away that I made a mistake. Like a big example of this is with my husband. When we kind of bet on things like, you know, like for example, we saw something on TV or something like that, and we were trying to remember something. Yeah. So and then I was wrong. I would I would still feel like a lot of anger for some reason. I don't know where it is coming from exactly, but yeah, that's it for me. And another thing is I believe when other people judges other people in front of me, I just I just feel anger. I don't know why because sometimes I think it's okay that people you know can say whatever they want, but yeah, I just feel this anger for some reason if I'm talking to someone that's judging another person. That's it for me.
Oh, thank you for sharing. But let me ask you this before I let you cut out of here.
Okay.
Have you ever judged someone? And you can be honest
Oh,
with
I
yourself.
believe, yes, I believe I have. And that's the thing. It's like for me, I can't accept that other people are doing the same, but I have judged so many people, in especially in during the days that I was not, you know, as self-aware as I am right now. So for sure, I just don't know where it was coming from. It's something.
I got you. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you so much.
All right, I'll take two. Well, we only have two more anyway, so that works out perfect. Jess, the floor is yours.
Oh, can you hear me?
I can hear
Hi.
you now.
Yeah, a couple things. I get really upset about my sisters and some family members, acquaintances, and coworkers do this, and it really boils me up. Is making fun of others who are disabled or of their appearance, their race, their sex, orientation. It really I really feel like when people can't even stand up for themselves, I have to at least interject or display some type of emotion toward that individual. You know what I mean? Especially making fun of others for something they cannot help or behind their back or even at all. So, yeah.
Jess, I feel that. Let me ask you right quick. What's your zodiac?
I'm a Taurus.
Okay, so
Fighting.
I got you because I know you sound like us fellow Virgos. So the same thing for people who are disabled, disability. I feel like you're the scum of the earth if you're making someone who has a disability. And I also am a big advocate for, like, for example, I was on a cruise and I saw one of the stewards being talked to like he was nothing because this guy who had a lot of money just thinks that his money can talk to him any type of way. And that I didn't get to share mine, but you kind of just brought it out of me. But that is something that triggered me, where it was just like, oh, you are no better than him just because your money says you are. So you don't have the right to talk to him however you want. And also the disability speaks to me as well, because a lot of people don't know it, but I have autism. And I was very shy and awkward as a kid, and I had to overcome and compensate from that. So I resonate a lot with what you just said. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I sometimes feel like I stand up and fight someone, and I feel like I would definitely do that in public if I had to, for another person, get in the way if I had to.
I feel that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Marcel, you're going to be the last one on this one.
Hey there.
How's it going?
So, really chilled. How are you?
I'm here. I'm grateful to be here with you guys, and I'm grateful that you all are sharing this.
That's good. You know, what triggers me, I was thinking about, is really difficult, because I was like, okay, where's the answer coming from? Is it from outside or is it from inside? And then it was like something in between. And what is in between? The connection from the inside and the outside. And this is when I get strong emotional reaction in me. So when I'm in the extreme inside, it's okay. When I'm on the extreme outside, it's okay. When I go into a connection, it creates like a really strong emotional reaction. And this is really depending on with whom I get in contact. So when there were some people I felt like sabotaged or manipulated through, I may re-expect that. And just in the short moment, the connection is there. I cannot really allow myself to go for a longer feeling into how would it really feel, how would it really sound, how would the connection really be, because it creates such a strong emotional impact in the moment it's arriving. And this is like facing shadow in a different way, where I don't know what to do. You know, people say that, some people, you're too lovely, some people say you're too hate, some people say like, it's like so strong, it's like, and when I would try to open up slowly, which I tried before, it's then like kind of like inauthentic. So when I need to slow down and I do that, but when I do it, for the people, often I get like the feedback, wow dude, this emotion or that emotion is too strong. And I fell into is what is really me, you know, would it be authentic if I hold back? And it's like, no, don't hold back, just go there. But it's like really hard to be with people. And this is like, I face my shadow everywhere I go, every online meeting, every person I meet, because everyone I see as a mirror, I see as a reflection or as a shadow. And this makes life hard, diving so deep into mindfulness. And I've talked a lot, maybe you already knew something good. You need to protect your energy, yeah?
Yeah, that's...
I know that, I try that, I do that. And even when I was investing a lot of years, sometimes I can't. When I can't control. And this is making me fucking freak out. And I want to control more. So it's like getting a loop to need to get out for protecting my energy. So I'm protecting all of the time, but then I need to realize, no, I don't need to protect. And then it's getting like this kind of like this loop, or like this and this and there. And yeah, there's another dimension then coming in. So we have like this from 2, we have like 4, maybe a lot of more. And the question is, where do I protect? Do I protect it like super close? Do I have it like ultra wide? Do I allow the people from the neighborhood into? Is it just someone I'm talking with?
It sounds like, yes, I was going to ask, like, the balance, honestly. When I've talked about yin and yang, it's either one or the other. And you keep on having these conflictions with society. Because, you know, the universe is projecting you back to yourself. So, we can go into, because you're deep. I can tell. And this conversation can take up the whole lecture. But I want to get back to you probably for the Q&A portion to dig deeper into this, but we're going to move on. I want to just say I appreciate you for sharing that. And thank you all for sharing your vulnerability. So, let's see. All right. So, now we know that when you are, we just uncovered, we all have these inner triggers. And remember how, as a child, when they would tell you, when you point at others, there are 3 fingers pointing back to you? Well, that's kind of the thing when you explore your triggers. It's an aspect of yourself that you're unconsciously projecting onto others. Now, I know for myself, I didn't really get too deep into mine, but one of my other triggers, I'll use myself for an example, is road rage. I had, before I meditated or got into meditation, I had serious road rage where I get irritated with people who I considered were terrible drivers. And then I thought about it, really, there's 3 fingers pointing back to me where I'm not the best driver at all times. I'm not 100% perfect. So there are times that I do some terrible driving and, you know, I mess up and I get honked at. And, you know, we all have that when we mess up. We're like a little puppy with his tail in between his legs. We don't want to look over at the person who we just cut off. But, you know, I'm no better to judge anybody. So, yes, your triggers are you projecting onto others. I mean, those who are into shadow work, you know this. But honestly, meditation is a good way to, I say, calm yourself and just let whatever happens. Now, there are some exercises that you all can do. You know, this is just an example of journaling exercises, but you have to ask yourself the right questions. Like writing down your thoughts and feelings can uncover the subconscious patterns and beliefs. But this is just an example. I guarantee you, this little example that I found, if you answer these questions, you can uncover a lot. But you have to cater the questions to you. So I'll use mine for example of what I had to come up with, because I said that you're a world-renowned psychologist and I am your patient, and I come to you with this particular problem. And my problem that came first to mind was I am envious of others' success in the work environment. So I had to explore where this was coming from. And when I asked myself the right questions, I was able to peel back those layers of the onion. So the first question I had to ask was, what specific situations triggered feelings of jealousy for me, and when did I first experience them? Now, for me, I thought back immediately to my time as a courtesy clerk when I used to work for Safeway. And there was this guy named Devin, and he was hired the exact same day as me, and he was the same age as me. He was just from a different high school. Now, Devin was promoted within the next year to being in charge of his own department. I think he was in charge of the seafood department. And I'm just like, well, why me? Like, what makes him more qualified than me? We have the same credentials. He's my age, so how did he get promoted? Now, the 16-year-old me just saw that. And that's where my shadow for the work environment was formed, where that followed me to every job that I've ever worked, to the point where I was jealous of anyone getting a promotion, even if they were my friend. It was like there was something within me that was like, I don't want somebody who is my age or younger than me being able to tell me what to do, because that's what Devin was able to do. And it was like, yo, you're not better than me. You were hired the same day. So it's like that was my mindset. But doing shadow work, you get a bit of hindsight. And I look back and reflected to that moment, and I said, you know what? Now that I think about it, Devin went above and beyond the call of duty. he was that type of worker that just excelled. He loved his job. I didn't love working at Safeway. It was just a childhood job. So I didn't go above and beyond the call of duty. And that's why he was promoted, but I didn't see that. So if I was able to recognize that right then and there, I would have never had that feeling of unworthiness or being jealous of others in a work environment. So this is why I say shadow work is important. And that's just one layer to the question. So what thoughts or beliefs do I have about myself when I experience jealousy? As I said, I don't feel like I'm good enough. I think that others are better than me. And I believe one of you mentioned how you're comparing your life to others. Like, I've realized that you have to play your hand, the cards that you are dealt with. Somebody, I'm a big Uno player, but you know, some people get all these nice cards. They get the wilds, they get the draw fours, they get all this stuff. And it makes them better, ahead of the game. And that's how some people's lives are, where some people are just handed a better hand. But guess what? I can play with my crappy hand and make the best of the situation. And that's what I had to realize. Like, I am worthy. These jobs don't define you. So what do I believe about success and how it's achieved? And are these beliefs influenced by societal norms, upbringings, or other factors? That was the next question. In my opinion on success, and I want to tell this to anyone who feels as if they are not successful, I define success as doing something that you wanted to do as a child. For example, let's just say hypothetically you wanted to be a sanitation worker. You enjoyed seeing garbage men on the ride on the back of the garbage truck, and as a child you're like, oh, that looks like a cool job. You get to ride on the back of a truck and pick up trash. That seems easy. But it's like society, teachers will use it as an insult, like, oh, do you want to be a garbage truck worker when you grow up if you don't get your degree? Like, so that's the societal upbringings kind of influencing our view of success. Because if I was a kid and I wanted to be a sanitation worker and I become that, well, guess what? That is success. Success is doing what you wanted to do, and it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks of it. So if that is you, you all are already successful. So how do I feel about my own accomplishments when I'm not comparing myself to others? I feel great. And Elizabeth pointed out before I move on, yes, the world needs sanitation workers. We need the jobs that are less desirable. I did maintenance. I did a lot of odd jobs. I worked in the sewers. It builds character. We need these jobs. And it's nothing to look down on people who have a job that is considered less desirable. I've seen some of the happiest people who have these jobs, and some of the people who have better jobs who are miserable. So, yes. So how do I feel about my own accomplishments when I'm not comparing myself to others? I feel amazing. This is why I don't like being on social media. I know it's counterintuitive where I'm on social media, but I'm not, because I realize that people portray their best life over social media, but they're not portraying what is real. So I noticed being off of social media, you kind of get a chance to not compare yourself to others, and you get to really live your life and be organic. I feel great if I accomplish a random task at the house, like fixing something. That's an accomplishment. So I feel amazing, and I don't have to compare myself to others just because I fixed something in my own house. And that's how we have to look about life in general. Like, stop comparing yourself to others, because other people have had better hands, and you got to do with what you have with the hand you are dealt with. Now, dreams. Dreams can provide valuable insight into our subconscious mind. This is why I keep a dream journal of reoccurring dreams. This is not my dream journal, but I am notorious for writing down my dreams in my notes in my phone, because my phone is the first I can see that in the dark. So if I have a dream that's on my mind, I can immediately write it down. And Carl Jung believes that each dream must be interpreted individually. They alert us of the imbalance in our personalities, and they allow us to change. Dreams are the teachers. They show us the parts of ourselves that need revising. And as you can see to the right hand side of this picture, I have a picture of the Titanic going down, because this, before I knew I needed therapy and I was talking to a therapist, my therapist just so happened to be a dream analysis. And she interpreted one of my dreams after she got back from her cruise. It was our 11th session, it was our last session, and it got pushed back because she was on a cruise. And the night before our session, I had a dream that I was on a ship that was sinking. My girlfriend and I, we were on a cruise, and the ship was going down. It was late, early in the morning, but really dark, like around 2 in the morning. And I just remember the crew was very calm and collective. As she told me to explain the dream, I told her the crew was very calm and collective in the moment. It was organized chaos where they helped everybody get on the lifeboats, and I remember I fell off the lifeboat and I was drifting further and further away from the wreckage. And it was dark. I didn't know which number lifeboat my girlfriend got on. And she asked me, she said, "What's the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of your girlfriend?" I said, "Intuition." And she said, "What's the first number that comes to your mind?" I said, 11. And she asked me about if there was anything tragic that happened to me while I was 11 years old. And I thought back to, I was caught in a rip current, and I was on a boogie board in Virginia Beach, and it took me back, but I was calm in that moment. And I drifted, and I just went with the path of least resistance, which is, if you get caught in a rip current, you just got to let it take you, and then you swim to the side. And that's what I naturally did. I didn't know any survival guides. I just went with the path of least resistance. So she dug that out of me, and then she gave me what it meant in her mind, where she said, "You're in a transitional moment in your life where my job as a firefighter, I plan on doing 10 years in the fire department and then transitioning to whatever the universe has in store for me." But she said that is the transition. The ship going down is the part of you that is sinking, and you are meant to follow your intuition. Stay calm in this new journey, but you and your girlfriend are on this path together. And if you follow your intuition, you'll be okay. So it's just dream interpretation. Your dreams really carry messages, and it's just, you have to write them down, because you can uncover a lot about your unconscious and what's going on within your shadows. That's my little dream tangent. So yes, highly recommend you all check out the Red Book. It's where Carl Jung encountered very archetypical figures, and it's I have this on one of my links to anyone. You can just get it on Amazon. But the themes in this book are the opposites of what dwells within the psyche. So if you haven't read this, check it out. I'm not being sponsored by this, but it's an interesting read. So, feedback from others. This can also tell you what's lurking in your shadows. So you got to be open to feedback from friends, family members, or therapists. Don't think that everyone out is out to get you. I know us Virgos, we are the ones who will tell you like it's real. And there's nothing, we're not being mean. It's just this, we're looking out for our friends. So if you have a Virgo friend, listen to their criticism sometimes. Because they're not going to have you leaving out the house looking a mess. And they're going to tell you like, "Hey, I don't think you're doing the right thing." Like we don't hold any cut cards. So now let's go on to healing the inner child. I'm going to try to get through some of these slides a little faster, but I want you all to recall a vivid childhood memory that triggers a strong emotional reaction within you. All right? And as you all think of this, I'll go first and I'll tell you mine. I say the first thing that comes to my mind was my 3rd grade teacher. Her name was Mrs. Marshall, and she showed a lot of favoritism to this one student. His name was Sean. And I don't know what it was. Maybe they were soulmates, or I don't know, but they just had this unique connection, and I just never understood why don't I get that attention? Why am I not receiving that love that he gets? He got to eat lunch with her, like while we're all going to the cafeteria. She even invited his best friend in that class. He was the teacher's pet. So I went above and beyond to receive that admiration, where I wanted to be the teacher's pet and receive that attention that he was getting, and I wasn't getting it. It just wasn't there, and I didn't understand. But looking back at that in hindsight, I know that I shouldn't have had to seek that attention outside. And that's going back to the anima animus, where the male who doesn't receive the love from his parents or his mother, for example, he seeks that in outside factors. And I didn't receive my mother wasn't a nurturer, they were providers. And that's how, like, I seen that triggered that emotion within me, where I was seeking that attention. But if I received it, I would have never had to seek it from a teacher. I was really attracted to her too. She looked like Britney Spears. So that kind of didn't, that made it was like seeing your crush just showing someone else attention. So that's what it kind of felt like. Anyways, who wants to share something from their childhood? Whitney, the floor is yours.
Hi. So this is sort of a full circle about a childhood memory. Is when I was young, I used to take ballet, and I loved it so much. And my grandmother, who I also adored, always told me, like, "Oh, you're such a good dancer." She loved to watch me dance. And then she passed away when I was 12. With me, I was with her when she literally crossed over. And I stopped dancing, but I never really thought about it. I just whatever. I just moved on with life. And then I went through a big grieving death phase not that long ago, where I buried multiple people. And in the process of that, I also joined a adult ballet class where I'm the youngest, and it goes up to 79 years old, and it's just like amazing. And my first day in class, when I got to my phone, there was this weird screen that I had never seen, and it said bubbles. And I was like, huh, that's odd. And then the next time I took a dance class, the same screen was there. And I was like, now that's really odd. And then the third time I took a dance class, it was there. And so I sat with it. I was like, what is going on? And my grandmother's name was Bubbles. And I realized that finding my childhood love for dance was like her validating the way to grieve in my body, that this trigger of movement that had died with her in a way, this like joy of just moving. And you know, at 45, I'm not going to be a prima ballerina, so I'm just there to dance for the love of it again, like you do when you're a child. And it just sort of ties into all the shadow and the way we bury ourselves and we bury our feelings, and everything gets mixed up together. So I don't know, you triggered that thought that I felt compelled to share.
I'm grateful that you shared that. That was I felt the energy within your voice, that this is what we're here for. So thank you for sharing that. Astrid, I believe you were next.
Yes. Okay. So for mine was similar to yours. It was actually in third grade, where that was the year where I was struggling a lot. I was struggling a lot to read. I was a distraction to other students. Constantly, the teacher would call my mom complaining about, my not paying attention, not doing homework. But in reality, it was because that was the year that I was also like being sexually molested at home. But I didn't really realize that was all like tying into my distraction and not paying attention in class. So I would like talk to the students, and that would get me in trouble, to the point that the same thing, I wanted the teacher to like me, And she liked all the students except me because I was a problematic, but she didn't know that I was like having problems at home, and I was distracting myself from that issue. That also she made me feel so like dumb, like I was not a good student. The things she would say to me, and she was the reason why I'm into books and why I started reading, because it was her always replaying in my head, and to the point where I got held back that year as well. That was the year before 9/11. I got no 2 years before 9/11, because when I got held back, I was in third grade again, and I was in Miss Riki, and 9/11 happened. So it was a very a big in mark in my head that I recently just brought up, but now I'm diving into it again. So thank you for doing this, because I guess I need more of that. Which kind of brought, oh, sorry, I wanted to add in, it brought the fear of why I can't talk and speak to other people, because of you know, when that happens to you and you go through that sexual trauma when you're a child, you have that fear of other people looking at you, or being, that could tie into your stage fright or speaking to other people. So yeah.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. This is what we're here for, to bring up these repressed memories. There's a lot of trauma in that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and move on to Jess.
Hi, another similar story of kindergarten nap time. I am the middle child of five children, so 4 siblings, and kindergarten is really like the first memory that is solid, because I can remember being there. I remember wanting the teacher's attention specifically at nap time. 1 or 2 of the kids would fall asleep, and they would get extra time to lay there, and then they would gently get woken up with the teacher being all sweet and, you know, loving toward them. And so one day I was pretending to be asleep, and I just remember craving that love that I didn't get at home, because you said your parents were, what were you saying? I wrote it down. They weren't nurturers, they were providers. So my mom was a single mother of 5. She was a nurse, or she still is a nurse, taking care of some of my siblings still. So she's always been a provider, never a nurturer, and I think that's exactly where I started feeling loneliness, abandonment, anxiety, and depression, like age 3 to 5, which is really sad. But I am like, I've been going through some more unpacking this year, and gonna continue journaling and writing maybe my own story this year.
Thank you for sharing that, Jess. I know we have 2 other participants who are raising their hands, but I am limited to 90 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next slides. Please include them in the chats, and I'm going to try to get through the rest of this. Thank you all for sharing so far. I'm going to kind of limit the speakers with the next 2 group activities that I have incorporated, but I would love for you all to keep putting them in the chat. So the inner child, this represents the essence of our childhood experiences, emotions, and beliefs. It embodies our innocence, vulnerability, and creativity. You have to think back to that inner child, because I mean, that's how you manifest that creativity. And we kind of limit it when we're not letting our shadow break free and use that creativity and that innocence. So this is what I mean by your shadow work journey being the start of your spiritual journey, it's hard to manifest if you don't really heal yourself and get into that higher frequency. The childhood traumas and neglect can leave a deep emotional scars, as we all heard from you guys' experiences. These wounds manifest as insecurities, fears, and dysfunctional patterns in adulthood. We have difficulties forming healthy relationships, low self-esteem and self-worth, fear of abandonment and rejection, and emotional outbursts or numbness. Now, we have to acknowledge and validate the pain of your inner child. Explore the roots of your inner childhood wounds through therapy, journaling, or inner work. What we're doing, we're asking the right questions that dig into those childhood wounds, and we're reopening them. But that's how you truly heal, when you clean up what is really hiding beneath that wound. So remember, this is a non-linear process. It's a continuous journey of growth and self-discovery. I'm still learning myself, but I'm recognizing all of my past tendencies that are manifesting in how I raise my own children and how I'm functioning as an adult. Now, with that being said, I want one person to share this, and I'm going to share my own. Whoever raises their hand first, they're going to be able to go. But real quick, if your younger self was standing in front of you right now, what would they tell you? And what age are they? Why did they come to you at this particular age to give you a message? And for me, my answer to this first part is, you are enough. I was the age that I would come to myself, and this thought came from, is at 11. Because my younger child would come to me and tell me that I am enough because I felt as if I let my dad down by not being an athlete. He was one of those people that was above and beyond for me. Like, he wasn't the nurturer, like hugging and physically, but he was there to tell me essentially that I'm going to support you no matter what you do. And I felt like I let him down because I didn't want to play football. I didn't want to do these different sports. It just didn't appeal to me. So he said, I cried many nights for this, but I was hurt. So I was always growing up thinking that I let him down. But in reality, he supports me no matter what I do. So it's my inner child didn't see that. It didn't know that. But now my inner child would tell me, you are enough. You recognize that he does have your support, especially with all the content I put out there. He's the biggest skeptic, and now I'm seeing the believing. He's sending me stuff on manifestation and all that. So it's good to see that he supports me, and even got me a new laptop as of recently. So yeah, that's what my inner child would tell me. I want one person to share what their inner child would say. I'm gonna minimize this so you can see it. But yeah, if your inner child was standing in front of you right now, what would they tell you? What age are they? And why are they giving you this message? If you can't think, Elizabeth, you can go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I have a visual of myself. I'm wearing a blue outfit. I have a side pony in my hair. Grew up in the 80s, 90s. I'm about 8 years old. And what the 8-year-old me would tell myself is that you will find your path, because the group of us together, we are expansive thinkers. We're on a spiritual path, and we are not the majority of the world, right? We are the minority when it comes to spirituality. You will find your path. You will find your people. Keep following your heart, and keep following like your free spirit, your free bird. So yeah.
I love that, Elizabeth. Thank you for sharing that. You've been a great participant as well. So,
thank you.
Let's go on to applying shadow work to relationships, career advancements, and personal growth. This is important. In the workplace, the shadow can manifest as career-limiting beliefs, fear, or failures, or imposter syndrome. Shadow work techniques such as self-reflection and embracing vulnerability can empower individuals to overcome obstacles, pursue opportunities, and achieve professional growth. Now, remember how I told you I'm going to come back to the imposter syndrome and the compensation, because I fell into that imposter syndrome where I wanted to promote in the fire department as a lieutenant because of ego, because of my unhealed shadow self that was manifesting from my childhood as a courtesy clerk, where I didn't want people to tell me what to do. So the only way to do that is to promote. But I ended up failing that exam. And it was a wake up call because it made me realize that I was only promoting for ego driven reasons. It wasn't to be a leader amongst humans in that particular job, but it was so I can fulfill the needs of that inner child. And I, being real with myself, I wasn't ready to be an officer. I didn't take the job as serious. I did just enough, but I didn't learn the extra material to be an officer. I didn't read the proper books like Collapse and Burn and Building. I read it now, but at the time, I was just studying, and I took the classes and the credentials just to say I can promote and put my name on the list and see where I would fall. But my heart wasn't in it. But you have a lot of people who still promote and they're not good leaders because a lot of it is very ego driven. And that's where I say it manifests in their leadership abilities, where they're yelling at you for tasks that they don't know how to perform themselves. So, yeah, imposter syndrome. So, personal goals often reflect our deepest desires and aspirations, as well as hidden fears and insecurity. Shadow work facilitates alignment between the conscious intentions and unconscious motivations, enhancing clarity, resilience, and effectiveness in goal pursuit. Limiting beliefs and self-sabotaging behaviors are often rooted in unconscious shadow aspects. By shining light on these individual shadows, individuals can break free from these self-imposed limiting beliefs and full potential. Now, I don't know how many of you all took part of the Limitless Mindset Challenge that I had not that long ago, but it is geared on removing the limiting beliefs that are stopping you from being your best authentic self. That particular challenge, we learn how to listen to your intuition, manifest your destiny, and rewrite your narrative. But it's all in removing the limiting beliefs that are holding you back. Some of you want to be you're limiting, in corporate America, you're like, I can never be a CEO. Well, whatever you say is true. If you believe you can be a CEO, well, guess what? You can. If you can't, you're right. So if you remove those limiting beliefs and envision yourself in stepping into your divine power, you can achieve whatever it is that you want. Now, there we go. We have the shadow and the ego, where the ego wants to protect its image and it doesn't want change. It wants to stay in its comfort zone. And the shadow wants to expand itself in image, and it pushes us to explore our undiscovered parts of who we are. It wants growth. Even though the shadow may seem like it's disruptive, but the shadow really wants what's best for you. And going back to that movie Fight Club reference, I believe that's the next slide. Yes, it is. Where there's this one particular scene in the movie where Brad Pitt's character and Edward Norton's character go to rob a convenience store, and he tells them, if you're not where they're robbing this clerk, and he asked him, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? He was like, I wanted to be a veterinarian, I believe. And he said, why didn't you pursue that? And he said, it was too much work. I didn't want to do it. So he takes his ID and he says, if you're not on your way to being a veterinarian in 6 weeks, you will be dead. And he meant that as in a way like, not I'm going to come after you and kill you, but you're self-sabotaging yourself by your own limiting beliefs. You're limiting your own potential. Brad Pitt's character was the shadow. Now, even though he was Edward Norton's character, he's representing what the shadow wants from all of us. It wants us to be our best self. So yeah, that was one of my favorite scenes from this movie. So the shadow is the crap of the world. It represents the stuff we tend to flush away, but it's through this waste new life can begin. Our rejected shadow side holds key to rebirth and transformation to whom we're supposed to be. It is the rise of the phoenix. In alchemy, it's prima materia, the beginning substance used in the alchemical process. It's usually the stuff that people consider useless excrements or worthlessness. But through this process of heating, we can shine light and transform crap into gold. And that is us, taking the craps we are ashamed of and turning it into gold. Your life will change once you recognize the parts you are hiding. Because as Carl Jung says, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Now, shadow work will be triggering. This is my warning to those of you who haven't started your shadow work journey. Elizabeth, I feel like you're way beyond this lecture. So, but yes, for those of you who haven't done your shadow work journey, it's going to be triggering. So I'm going to, last group activity, and I'm going to ask you, what is one aspect of your life you have been avoiding or denying about yourself? And you're going to reflect on this question, and I'm going to come back and ask it after I share my story of what Jen kind of introduced me to, because a lot of you know me as this guy on social media, those who follow me, and I'm here to tell you my life was never perfect. I was not the person that you guys know today. What you see today was because of my journey. Now reflect, while creating this masterclass, I had to face my own inner demons again. And I came across this photo. It was back during my modeling days and my modeling journey. I had a photo that went viral on Twitter, and I started receiving a lot of attention from women along with modeling opportunities. Wilhelmina, IMG, all these modeling agencies came to approach me. So my head was through the roof. I was flying back and forth between New York and LA. Women were in my DMs, casting agents were in my DMs, and it was sky high. But even though I felt like I was on top of the world, I was still empty inside. I was confident on the exterior, but on the interior, I couldn't say the same. I wasn't my best self. I wasn't the best father. I was lying and manipulating and cheating on my kid's mother because all this fame and attention that just got to me. And I wanted to escape my reality as a father. There was a time I thought about running away from it all. And this photo was taken right at that exact moment. I was sitting on Venice Beach. I don't even know what I was drinking. But I wanted to try my hand with acting and modeling and see how far I would make it. But I realized they wanted me to be a character for which I wasn't. Now, even though I play characters in my skits, I play these characters to present a message. But this wasn't the message that I wanted to portray. So there was a voice in my head that said, it's time for you to go home. And I didn't really pursue acting. But I ended up splitting with my kid's mother, but I was still chasing this fame. And I was chasing it through social media. All of the attention, all for the attention of women. I was filling that void of my 9-year relationship. Started using dating apps such as Hinge and Tinder, continued to lie and manipulate women. Anytime a woman would want to commit to me, I'd run for the hills. I met my current partner through Hinge, and even though we had our turbulence in the beginning of the relationship because I had to face my own inner demons, we overcame them. And that was because of a transcendental moment. If you look to the right-hand side of the picture and above her cleavage, you could see an eye appear. This was the moment that truthfully, where I heard the universe speak to me through a message. I had this vision that showed me how important she was in my journey. And it showed me that my old ways of lying, manipulating women will never foster growth. She's a Montessori teacher and a Reiki master. And she has this saying called "Find My Eyes," where she tells her students to find my eyes and locate me. And this was the universe's way of telling me to find my eye. And it was on her. So we've been good ever since that moment. The struggle between the different desires and aspect of myself, the desire for adventure, variety versus the need for stability and commitment. I realized my encounters with various women seemed to mirror my internal conflict, with each relationship representing different aspects of myself. I had self-esteem issues. They manifested as patterns of seeking out multiple partners or avoiding committed relationships out of belief that I am unworthy of love or unable to maintain a healthy relationship. I used social media to validate me. I didn't have self worth or internal validation. And as I mentioned earlier, this stuff stems from your childhood. If your parents don't nurture you in your childhood, it wreaks havoc in your adulthood. And that was the ugly truth. I had to be alone to communicate with myself. My higher self told me to love myself, and then the world will love me. Beat to your own drum. Show others the path that you walk. And I did just that. I stopped taking pictures on social media. Those who follow my account now, you don't see any pictures of me. I deleted all accounts that connected me to past energy of past women. I created new accounts and geared it towards inner worth. And that's how Jen came across me. I started building a tribe of like minded individuals. I built a large community, wrote a book on how people can better selves by aligning and listening to their higher self, and started an online mentoring program. So, the love you give returns to you in other time and another person in other circumstances, but it always comes back to you. If you don't love yourself, you can't love anyone else. I had to realize that. So, with that being said, what is one aspect of your life you have been avoiding or denying about yourself? And I'm going to take two people to answer this. And whoever raises their hand first can go ahead. Lamar, the floor is yours.
All right, sweet. Yeah, thanks for kind of wrapping all this up with some personal stories and really telling your own story. I definitely resonate with some pieces as well. I saw in the chat earlier some folks were talking human design, which is something I've kind of learned a little bit more about in the last 2.5 years or so. In my human design, I'm a projector, and so part of that, part of the lessons that I've learned through that is that I need to wait for the invitation, wait for correct invitations. Previously, before my kind of spiritual journey, I had been, very social, kind of had, a similar social media type experience. Earlier on Instagram, I was kind of in the foodie scene, kind of going to restaurants and giving like food reviews and things through Yelp and through Instagram. Gained a decent following, at least for Minneapolis, and was, kind of getting recognized, similar to Marco, your story of like, oh, wow, people are looking at me and recognizing me, and there is kind of an ego thing that just kind of happens, especially as an only child, very introverted, didn't really have a lot of that social attention, and so really got lost in the shuffle of kind of being a semi-public figure, not quite understanding how to spiritually guard myself, and so really just got caught up in that hustle of the grind and kind of all of the pretty shiny flashy things that I wanted to put on social media. And so the pandemic really forced me to slow down and sit with myself, and to, I couldn't avoid or deny a lot of things about myself, and it truly forced me to sit and think about my goals and where I felt like I would be headed. And so I mentioned earlier, I started a spiritual journey, and so with the start of the pandemic, obviously that was a stressful time. I was also working full time, and I was in grad school full time for my master's degree in teaching and learning, and so just all of that combined together with then I live very close to where George Floyd was murdered as well. So in Minneapolis, that was just a convergence of so many things that really took me to my rock bottom of just physical burnout, mental burnout, emotional burnout, spiritual burnout. And then I kind of really had to sit with the fact that I can't do everything myself. And I do need to kind of learn some skills, coping mechanisms, and truly gain an understanding of myself so that I can sustain a life of true abundance for more than just a couple years or so. And so unlearning a lot of toxic behaviors and things was a big part of my path. And now kind of, trying to pull myself out of that depressed state, that isolated state, is a lot about realizing, oh no, there are people out here that are inviting me to certain things. And it's more about using that discernment to know what's right with me, what's going to get me to the timeline that I want to live on, the life that I want to live. And the last couple months, especially this year, I feel like I've turned turned a good corner, and have been able to be more confident in having these conversations and joining communities and in sharing my own story, and sharing that story has given value to others, and learning from others has also been very important. So it's been a lot of great confirmation that the work is working. And similar to you, I've kind of started some new social media accounts or removed folks from that old life, and have really tried to take collective or direct action towards the life that I want to live. And I know that's kind of a big piece of manifestation, is visualizing it, but then also taking some direct action. So even being here today is just another step for me. So thanks again for really being part of the catalyst of all of this learning and sharing your own stories. And thanks to everybody else for their stories as well.
You walk so Keith Lee can run. Let's put it that way, because he does the same thing. But no, you're radiating. I will tell you, like, I'm seeing your essence, and you are definitely radiating, because you are I can tell you are on this different path. Now, I don't know what happened to my slides, but yes, and the human design aspect, when you follow your human design and it's very ironic because Jen and I are about to be part of a course that goes over human design, and it teaches human design, astrology, tarot, and numerology. So yes, if you're interested in that, definitely it'll be available in June. But keep your journey, man. You are on the right path. I see it radiating, honestly. So I had a few more slides. Let me see. I think yes, I had. I'm sorry. I promise we're going to. We're pretty much almost done this. Let me just. So Lamar, thank you for sharing. I want to leave you all with a few resources to help you with shadow work. There's many books out there, but some of my personal favorites are Owning Your Own Shadow, Understanding the Dark Side of the Psyche by Robert A. Johnson, and The Dark Side of the Light Chasers by Debbie Ford. These are excellent reads and excellent starting points. And you really see how the shadow plays out in different people. Professional therapists. Like I told you my therapist story. I didn't know I needed therapy, but working with a therapist or a counselor trained in shadow work can help in depth with psychology, can provide personalized guidance and support in other people. Like I said, if you have that friend, my girlfriend was the true reason for me seeing myself. She was the opposite of what I was trying to align to. You can practice mindfulness and meditation. I'm not sponsored by Headspace, but I will say you do have to pay for Headspace, but it is an amazing app to start off with mindfulness meditation. It calmed me in my road rage ever since I started practicing mindfulness meditation. But practices such as mindfulness and meditation can help increase self-awareness and facilitate exploration of unconscious aspects of the psyche. And you got workshops and retreats. Many organizations offer workshops or retreat focused on shadow work. They often incorporate techniques such as journaling, meditation, and group discussions. We'll be putting together some retreats pretty soon. But other than that, my name is Marco J. Williams, and my goal is to help you all shift the collective consciousness. Thank you all for being here. I'm aware that I went over the time a little bit, but we got some stuff out, and I'm grateful that you all decided to share your vulnerability with me.
Marco, thank you so much. That was amazing. And I think it's what everybody needs right now. The collective is in their shadow work. And, people have to be brave enough to come forward and say that even though it's scary, it's what needs to be done. And also, I love the part about your personal journey. I feel like that might be everybody's favorite part, to kind of see your full, just that little snippet of your journey, and from your modeling career to where you are now. So awesome.
I would say
we're going to also be switching to a different chat for Bruno's after lunch. So that's going to be a link in the chat once we finish up here.
All right, I can't wait to see Bruno. That's my guy. We're putting together a lot of stuff. Bruno and I, retreats upcoming. I and I feel like everyone thinks Reiki is woo woo, but I didn't really mention that my girlfriend doing Reiki on me, I think really cleared out some of those blockages that really pushed me into that shift into a different direction. So I listen, Jen, I'm grateful that you are being a part of this. I can't
Oh,
wait
thank you.
for the stuff we have together in the future. Keep doing what you're doing, and let's
And
all.
come by tomorrow if you have time. Our last speaker is a Reiki master, and she's going to be doing some energy work. And also, like we said before, anyone who kind of wants to take this information with them, we're going to seal that in with the Reiki energy at the end of this conference, too. So join in, Marco. Join in with your girlfriend if you can. We would love to see you.
All right. It'll be same time. I see the time. It'll be kind of the same time
Yeah, that'll
tomorrow.
be our last one for tomorrow. So like I think probably around 7 p.m. in your time zone. And then everybody here, make sure you take a look at the link for Bruno, and he's going to be starting in 5 minutes. So I'm going to hop over to there. And everybody, if you need to have a little bathroom break before Bruno, see you over there. Marco, thank you so much, and can't wait to talk to you about the upcoming project. And thank you to everybody for sharing.
You all have a good one. Well, that was the Innerstanding Your Inner Demons live shadow work masterclass. Thank you all for attending. We got a lot of inner trauma that we have to work through, but when we work through it, we become gold. Thank you all, and good evening, good night, wherever you are in the world.